Dave Hansen, who is the Executive Director of Buckles, and he would like to say a few words. Hey, good.
Thank you very much. Oh, that's do not apply. I have not to thank, and I'm not gonna really do much tonight, other than just welcome you here. First, it is a lovely place to be. This is what happens when libraries work together, because this was partially funded by the construction grant. And there's folks that are from major stuff, and this is what happens when we all work together. And I think that's important to remember. That's why we're all here today. We're all here to learn. Buckles does some amazing things, but one of our key concepts is shared professional development. And that means we come together to learn, and we're stronger because of it. And so as you get ready for this very important thing, I just want to thank you. Not just for being a trustee, but if you're here, you might be on one of those special committees that make up some of the board work. And I'm going to tell you right now that one of the most important things we do as members of board is work on special committees. Believe it or not, Buckles board has special committees, and we have some of the same committees that you do. And they're the ones that do a lot of that heavy lifting that brings stuff to the board and makes all these wonderful things possible. Like I can pretty much guarantee there might have been a special committee involved in this room, right? And so as we think about that and center ourselves, I want to thank everybody for taking their time to being our experts on this panel. I want to thank you for taking the time to come here and be part of something very special to Buckles, which is that shared professional development. So thank you for coming and enjoy.
Thank you, Dave. It's been a while since we've had one of these in person like this, and it's great to see everybody again. And because of that, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm so shocked. My name is Tom Madrew. I'm the treasurer of the Park Ridge Public Library Board of Directors. I've been that since 2016, and I am co-chair of the Trustee Development Committee, which is the committee that has brought all of this to you. My co-chair, our co-chair is Caitlin Hull, who is the director in Maywood. And there are a few other of our board members here tonight. So now you know who I am and why I'm standing here. I would next like to introduce Adele Puccio. Adele is the president of the Buckles board, and she would like to say a few words. She is the director in Fairlawn.
Thank you all so much for coming out. I am especially happy to see you all. It's National Library Week. Give every library a big hand, and today is National Library Workers Day. So make sure you say hello and thank a library worker on the way out, because our libraries are only as strong as the people who work in them. And I know that everybody in Buckles libraries goes above and beyond. And one of the ways that they do that is by being parts of the committees that Dave mentioned. We do have committees that every director is part of. Most directors volunteer based on what their interests are. On our executive board, we have our standing committees, and it really does help to keep everything together. It keeps everything running well, and it helps with having everybody take part and help out when one of us is going through a construction project. So you might find out that my library is going to be closed this weekend because of elevator construction. Well, I know the area surrounding libraries will welcome my patrons, and that's always a wonderful thing. But I thank you very much for coming out tonight. I thank our volunteer panelists tonight. Being on a board is a lot of work, and so is being a director. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele. I will introduce to you now our four panelists who will be telling you about their the committees at their libraries and why they're important. We have Carmen Diaz from Bogota, Mary Kearns from Edgewater, Carol Otterbein from West Caldwell, and Julie Ohana from Midland Park. They've all volunteered to take their time to come and be here tonight, and we certainly appreciate it. And we're going to start with Carmen, and if you would tell us a little bit about what's going on in your library and about your committees.
So we're a very small library, Bogota, like I was explaining to my whole personnel here. So we do more of committees and on demand. So depending on the needs, like recently we had a personnel committee due to the fact that we needed a new director. strategic planning committee. So our committees are definitely on more of a need be basis than on as an actual committee that's done, let's say, on a monthly basis.
Can I just ask you, you said they're ad hoc. Are you on any of the committees?
Yes, I've been on the personnel committee, strategic planning committee, both of those, which are extremely important committees I've been involved with.
Do you meet on a regular basis?
So when we do have those committees in the process, we do meet on a regular, sometimes bi-monthly, and then bring all the information to the monthly meeting to the board, and then from there continue our, our plans until we get to where we need to be.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
You're
Would you just pass the microphone down, and Mary, if you would,
Yeah.
give us some information about your library.
Hi, I'm Mary Kearns. I am the president of the Board of Trustees at the Edgewater Free Public Library. You're asking about committees. We have a finance, a building and grounds, a policy and procedures, and a personnel committee. We will create other committees as a need basis. We do not have standard meetings for these other committees. It's on an as needed basis. Right now, as I was mentioning, the personnel committee is going into labor negotiations. So there will be 3 of us on a committee, and we will meet with the union rep and our lawyer and discuss that. I guess we're gonna do that on Thursday. Does the committee require a quorum to meet? No, just as needed. I am on every committee because our library board is so small. So every one of those committees I'm a member of. Do we submit written reports? No, usually we have oral reports coming from our committees. Should a library director attend meetings? Yes, according to our bylaws, they do. And is it okay to hold a virtual committee meeting? Yeah, well, we did that during COVID with Zoom. We had virtual meetings, library board meetings during Zoom. Does a committee have to be listed in the board's bylaws, or is it okay to create a committee? We can have standing committees in the bylaws. We can create them as we need them. For example, if you need to do, Carmen was mentioning that they're going back into strategic planning, and you need to do that every 5 years. And I asked, do we need to go back and do it? We did it 5 years ago. Do we need to come back and do it again? And I reached out and I said, I wanted to ask the state librarian, do we have to do this? And during COVID, no, we could delay it. We didn't have to do it every 5 years because there are a lot of restrictions that we are supposed to do, and one of them is 5 years. So before you go back and rush in to do a strategic plan, find out first if you can postpone it, if you would like. You can do that. I'm not sure what else you would. How frequently do your committees meet? As needed. If something comes up, then we'll pull the committee aside and we'll create a committee. Tomorrow I'm having a meeting with the personnel committee before I go into labor negotiations. Basically, that's how we do it.
If you pass it down to.
Is this Sean coming here?
Yeah. That's my.
Hi, I'm Carol Otterbein, West Cole, one of the few, well, I don't know how many libraries who are part of Buckles are in Essex County, but we're one of those libraries. We're not civil nor are we union. With our board, we have 7 members on our board. At this point, I just became the president in January, which puts me, according to our bylaws, I can be on every committee. We only have 2 standing committees. We have a personnel committee and we do have a nominating committee, which just meets the first 2 weeks, within the first 2 weeks of January to put forth the board officers. So that's maybe a little bit different than, I'm not sure if anybody else has that.
We, again, a middle-sized library, we do kind of that laissez-faire. We meet when we need to. I've been on the budget for many, many years, and then as the times changed, we realized we had gotten a bookkeeper in the library, and our director, I have to give a shout out to Samantha McCoy. She is absolutely excellent, knows so much about so many things. I believe she's really involved with Buckles. So we're very aware of what's going on in the budget, and I do, sit with her, but we don't have a standing budget committee at this point. Neither do we have a buildings and grounds anymore. We kind of realized we didn't need it. We share a building with, we call them upstairs, our governing body. And they are, a shout out to our mayor, Joe Tempesta, and to our administrator, Nicole Bilecki. They are excellent to us. They take care of almost anything that's going wrong physically in the library, and don't hold us account to the 1/3 of the mill, which, by state law, they have to give us. In fact, Samantha and I calculated today that they really give us almost 20% above and beyond what they have to in town. So I feel, even in talking, amongst, I'm going back home, quote unquote, to say, wow, I feel very privileged, to be a part of that library. Our town fathers, and now a couple mothers are in there too, view us, they call us the gem of, West Colwell. So it's so good to have support from your town. And again, I think, that's about it with the committees. We just meet as needed. Again, I say, we have a fantastic director who really takes care of an awful lot. And we're not civil service, nor are we union, so we don't have those concerns at all at this point.
Hello, Sean Kucharski. You're in our library, River Edge, hometown here. I've been on the board about 5 years now. I'm currently the treasurer. I also have our president here and another board member sitting in the back. So I like the way, over the years, I've served on the Board of Ed, I've served on committees in town, and I like the way that we do it here. It's more, we have committees, but they're more ad hoc of when they're necessary. What's good about that, and it moves around the people. I've seen over the years where the problem is you have certain committees and people have been there a long time and they sit on these committees and all the knowledge is sitting with them. And then when something happens, one, they get the same viewpoint, but two, when something happens, you're now trying to fill that knowledge gap. Our president, and I think our board does a very good job of moving around. Hey, we're going to need a committee for this, or this committee is going to have to meet. Who wants to be on it? Because they're short term. Again, they're ad hoc. They're there for a reason, not just to sit there and meet and go over anything. It's okay, we have an objective. The last 2 years, we've seen a lot of these ad hoc committees that we've gone through and had to build up and use for a little while because of a lot of construction that went on. This room you're sitting in right now was all redone, all back there. HVAC units, generators, we've done a lot of work over the past couple of years. And I think the way that we run the committees shows that it worked well because we stayed on project, on time. We stayed under budget, and we got all of this to work as we wanted to, with little effect on the library during the time and the services. And if you think about it, that was going from post-COVID, right? Well, really at the end of COVID through to now, and it was doing it in that way with these committees of, hey, we got to work on this now. We've got to work with like the buildings and grounds instead of just forcing the meetings we have. They work in that way. The people rotate around, so the knowledge base is good there. Depending on the time of the years, we'll see different committees stand up, like the personnel or the budget, especially if we're seeing issues there. Again, there's no reason to force it if we don't. And that's the way it's been. Yeah, the last few years, it's worked well. The committees, mostly since we're right here in town, we have all this beautiful space, get together if you can. But if not, there's still the phone calls or Zooms. But I found out over the last year, I think we found more time of sitting together with all the different rooms down here for a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Julie Johanna from the Midland Park Public Library. My library actually has several standing committees. We have finance, policy, personnel, buildings and grounds, technology, and strategic plan. And we too have a nominating committee once a year. I've been on the library board 15 years. So in that time, I've been on pretty much every committee, certainly ad hoc as a president. I've sat in on all of them. And the committees function kind of like you were saying, like, they report every month, and our library director, Catherine DeLeo, is excellent in that she's partnering with the committees at all times. But sometimes it's more of a touch base with a committee chair just to say such and such is happening with personnel this month, you know, for you to report. And it's not necessarily where the whole committee needs to get together. So that can happen on a monthly basis. But over time, we've had quite a few best practices that we've put in place. Probably the biggest one that I could share with the group is that we've moved completely paperless. So all of our stuff is on a Google Drive. And we have, every year has a folder, and in each folder are meetings, you know, for each month. And we also have whatever the most current policy manuals are for personnel and just our regular policies and procedures. And any material for the board meeting goes into the folder, and everyone's to review the information prior. So we have the Friday before everyone has to get me all the committee chairs have to get me their information. I get the agenda together. Everything has to be in the drive, and then everyone has the weekend and, you know, Monday, Tuesday to review their stuff. So it's really served us very well that everyone comes to the meeting very well prepared. And it also puts a little pressure on the committee chairs to, you know, have their ducks in a row. So that's worked really well for us. Also, kind of having a looser structure to realize that some committees do need to be more prepared and regular than others. Like I would say our finance, our policy, and our personnel committees are the most labor intensive, in that they have the kind of the bigger stuff to report, where buildings and grounds, technology, and strategic plan are a little looser flow. So for example, for buildings and grounds, something that worked really well for us, you know, I felt like the chair for that kind of struggled every month, kind of how to package everything for everyone. So we went to a spreadsheet format, and just kind of all the standing projects are on there, and he updates and does a touch base with the town hall, you know, who owns our building, their maintenance guy, and our library director. And he does a really quick, like, you know, this is where we stand on the window project, here's what's going on with the elevators, and it's very nice and concise for everyone. And I feel like everyone can digest it better, because it was a little too out there this time. So yeah, so I would say those are my committee practices that work well.
Cool.
After you.
Thank you. Welcome, Sean. Thank you. Hey, you can see you've got a pretty nice overview of how each library handles some of the more standard committees. And right now, we would like to, we got from you folks ahead of time a few questions, and we have some other questions that we would like to ask. If during this part of the program, if in fact you come up with another question that you haven't heard answered, please feel free to write it down. And when we're done with these, I'll ask you to raise your hand if you have a question that hasn't been covered. So some of these have been somewhat covered, but we want to hear other people's opinion. Thank you, Mary, for filling in some of them already. I think we did hear a number of people mention how frequently committees meet. Does anybody have anything further to add to that as to how their committees meet, whether they're frequently or not? I gather most of them are ad hoc. Okay.
I would say bi-monthly is if there's a project going on, then definitely bi-monthly, minimally, but otherwise as a need basis.
Thank you. Another one regarding buildings and grounds. This is an interesting one, I think. Has anyone, if you have buildings and grounds, the police to develop a plan of action to train for active shooter or shelter in place? It's a sad commentary that we have to ask that question, but it's certainly very important. Would anybody like to say anything about that? I see you nodding your head there.
Yeah.
Carol?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. When I saw this question, I did, ask our director. Because I thought I had heard that, you know, we had done that, and she said, definitely, fortunately, we have the police station right across the street. And they have, they're very active together. And the chief of police has come over, they practiced with the staff, you know, unfortunately. And they do basically have a direct line right into the police station. One thing she said, they've all been trained. You know, if you do have to call the police for an emergency, don't hang up the phone, drop it and get yourself out, you know, and obviously very concerned with the young kids and, you know, how to do that. Being married to a volunteer fireman too, I started as the president again when we opened up the meetings to show everybody where the exits are. I think that's very important when somebody comes in. So if we feel that somebody new has come into the library, our director, our staff always make sure that they know where all the exits are. And as far as I know, our personnel staff is definitely ready, hopefully never have to do it, but ready to, you know, call police and take care of the situation.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to chime in on that one? Okay. How many trustees can be on a single committee? Do you have, anybody have any rules and regulations around that as to how many? I see a couple of heads nodding.
Well, it can't be a quorum, obviously, you have to make sure, and you also have to make sure that you're not exercising any business decisions because then it's now needs to be a public. It can't be a committee in part, right? You have to make sure it's not a committee in the whole, and you can't, but they can't make any board decision. They
No,
only bring their decisions.
You can bring it to
Right.
the board.
They- Yeah. That's my understanding.
Yes.
Usually it's between 3 and 5.
Oh,
You-
five?
And it depending like with the personnel, when we were getting the director, we had more people involved with that.
How many are on your board though? You then,
Oh, on the
That's a
board,
quorum.
we have, on the board, we have, with the director 10, but 9 obviously voting bodies.
so
You can't have five.
so then you can't, if you had five.
No, it says for a single committee. a
Right,
Single
you can't, but
committee.
you can't have five per single committee, because then that would be the majority.
Oh,
You have
okay.
to stay a minority.
So then,
Cancel one person.
Yeah.
okay.
Somebody will get lucky and get off. Are your committee meetings open to the public?
Yes.
Carmen
No,
says
no, not
yes.
the committee, I'm sorry, not.
No, not the committee.
Unless you have five.
That makes it public, right? Yeah.
So the second part, I can answer.
Oh, yeah, right. Are they subject to OPRA?
So they are subject to
Oh,
Oprah.
yeah.
So even though it's considered, you know, a committee in part, it's still operable. And in a lot of cases, like a personnel committee meeting, you would want to get an attorney to redact. You wouldn't give them, and well, so the other question is, are you taking notes in your committee meetings, which probably most of us are not? I mean,
Right.
so that becomes another issue too.
And if it's about a particular person, I believe you have to,
You have to
you
redact
have to
that.
write them and all of that.
So sorry, so are you saying basically that we should be taking notes in committee meetings
Well,
or shouldn't?
well, right, because you can be Oprah for information and you can say no responsive. So I work for a very large district school board.
I'm sorry, just 1 second. Can everybody hear her okay? Because
I'm sorry.
otherwise I'll Vanna White over there. I thought her job was very easy, but it's not.
So I work for a large district school board and my job is answering these Oprah requests, which we get an enormous amount of, unfortunately. And they are, so I'm sorry, your question was,
My question was, so for committee meetings, should we be taking
Right.
minutes or not be taking
so
minutes?
a lot of times we've been Oprah for things and it's no response, you could say no responsive records, that you don't
Okay.
have the records,
Mhm.
but it really would behoove you, I mean, we have not, in a library setting in 15 years, we've never been Oprah for anything, so I think we get into this kind of complacent you know, which is all well and good until you suddenly get, you know, someone from the public who's now a problem and now suddenly Oprahing everything. And we get Oprah in a school district, we get Oprah for such a wide array. I mean, it could be, so any document you have in your building is Oprahable. I mean, it's a public record that you must. So,
Wouldn't any conversations or whatever was discussed at a committee meeting, wouldn't anything really pertinent have to be brought to the entire board for
right.
discussion and vote anyway? Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, technically, if something, so a committee meeting is deliberative, so you're like deliberating over something. So technically, what you're bringing to the board is just kind of the bubbling up of the deliberation.
But that's not enough.
But what goes on in a committee is the whole notes of the minutes of the meeting. So like in a Board of Ed situation, they're actually taking, you know, high level notes of everything that's getting. So in the case of a personnel committee, you would have those notes and you'd have to redact out anything, you know, that can't be shared. And there's all kinds of rules with Oprah around what can and cannot.
And then do you submit those minutes as part of the board packet?
Well, like I said, we don't, and I would bet most libraries don't until it becomes an issue, right? And so I think it's one of those things, do you get ahead of it and start, this actually made me question, I was like, oh, maybe we should be, I should be requiring my committees when they need to at least give me some sort of bullet pointed thing. I don't know, because it's all about, public transparency, right? And how much you want to look like you're, you know, transparent, so.
Right, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I think this interaction works better than if you have a question, I'm changing my rules here. If you have a question, please feel free to jump right in and ask it. Yes, ma'am.
Julia, I'm curious, how large is your library? How many board members do you have? Because you have a lot of committees.
Yeah, well, so I'm actually, Midland Park is a small town of, it's like 7,000 people.
Okay,
And, yeah, we have a 9-person board. So,
okay, so your 9-person board, does that include like your superintendent's representative
yes,
and your mayor's rep?
Yeah.
Do you have 7 regular board members?
yes,
And then the 2 reps?
yes. So our committees will have 3 people. We have 3 people on each committee.
Okay, well, I think somebody else brought up the question and you answered part of it, but like you said that you have a policy committee.
Mhm.
So your committee meets and decides, if you have a policy committee, does that mean that they're meeting and deciding what policies need to be updated and when?
So that's actually a great question. And we actually, there was something we just went through, our bylaws, our library bylaws. So the policy committee met and actually went through, and I actually ad hoc sat in on that, where they went through each section. And so like each person on the committee went home, redlined everything, met, and by paragraph, they went over all the red lines. Then it goes in the Google Drive for the board to review. This is what the policy committee met. These are our bylaw recommendations, and then it's discussed in open session.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. Do you, if the committee makes a suggestion to change the policy, do you still have that open discussion
Yes.
in the board meeting
Yes,
before you vote?
they're seeing all our red lines comments.
Okay.
It's in this one shared Google Doc, and then, you know, does everyone agree with the changes in section 1? Yes or no? But discussion.
So there's still an opportunity for every
Yes.
board member to
Yes.
have their say in the policy change. It's just that you
Yes.
go through and,
Yeah.
but then again, like, so how does your policy committee decide which policies to update and when?
So we review our policy manual every 2 years,
Okay,
and we have like a schedule of sections. So it'll be like this meeting, we're doing section 1, this meeting, we're doing
so you're
section 2.
reviewing every single policy every 2 years.
Yeah.
And do you have like, do you have a certain hard copy or a certain file that you know is the official
Yes.
version of the
Yes,
policy?
so on the drive, on our Google Drive, so once the policy is voted as the official policy, then it goes in that year's drive as this is the,
This is the one.
yes.
Okay, all
And
right.
so, which is great well, I know for me, when we're reviewing things, every year I can just open the 2022 file or the 23, and I'm like, okay, this is our current policy, or everyone review this. And I can even link to it in my, you know, agenda, link to the policy review. So it's efficient.
Who puts it into the Google Drive?
The policy, the chairs put all their stuff in their drive.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good stuff. Should the library director attend the committee meetings? I know in most places the library director is by definition a member, but do they typically attend the meetings? Carmen, I see you nodding your head here.
So in our library, even though we're such a small library, the director definitely attends every single meeting. And it's been like that since, you know, we've been with several directors and they've always attended.
I think it varies. It depends on what the committee is doing and what's going on. Sometimes you want the committee because you want a viewpoint, right? The whole reason for the board is to have a viewpoint outside of the people that are working there on the day to day. And they've been doing it for so long. So you, on certain things, if you need the technical expertise or the subject matter expertise that the director that can provide so that the committee can work on it, yes. If not, if it's other things that you're working on, you have the plan, I want the input of my other members as opposed to necessarily what the director wants. And then that's when you hash it out and talk. So it depends.
Yeah, ours is by invitation. We invite the director, you know, to come to the meeting. We do want her input.
Do you hold virtual committee meetings? Now that pandemic, I guess, is kind of calming down to some degree, you still do virtual? How do you?
The state of New Jersey has indicated that the COVID emergency ended last March, so we do not do virtual at all. We tried one virtual meeting, not necessarily a committee meeting, but just a virtual, and it was very difficult to do. So, you
So
know.
are your board meetings live too now, not virtual?
Yeah, we tried a virtual board meeting at one point and we said, no, we don't have to do that any longer by state law.
What did you do during COVID? Did you have virtual board meetings?
No, we wore masks and we came in.
Oh, wow, really?
Even when you weren't physically allowed to be in, because for us,
No,
We
then we
weren't
canceled,
permitted.
no, we were, yeah.
we weren't permitted to come into the library, so we had to meet on.
No, well, we had, yeah. Oh, well, we didn't, the director would give, you know, her report and all. We knew what was going on. I don't think we're by state law have to have a certain number or by our bylaws have to have a certain number of meetings at all during the year. I don't think it's regulated. Because we checked into that at this point.
You have that 10 here.
By state law?
Yes.
That's.
Yeah,
Yes.
really? I'm gonna check in and, okay. Real?
Most library break for July and August.
No, we break for July and August, but I mean, we've had instances where we could not fill a quorum. Say during February, so we couldn't meet.
July.
So we have to make it up in July, you know, that's, I'm learning something, if that is the.
You only get 10.
We reschedule
okay.
if you don't know, we don't know.
And you announce it in the press.
Thank you.
Does a committee and its charges have to be listed in the board's bylaws? Or is it okay to create a committee by motion?
Made by motion.
Do you have board members of friends on your board or trustees? And are they on committees that might conflict with each other and their different domains of interest?
One thing going back to that, if you have it in the bylaws and the reason not that you don't want to, but if they're in there, then they have to be meeting. Right, those are the rules you then have to follow. That's why if you do it by motion, it gives you that flexibility. There might not be a reason to have a personal committee meeting if everything's set for a year. So why put it in the bylaws and as opposed to the motions? Again, flexibility, make it easier.
Wouldn't the bylaws have to say when they have to meet then, or just?
They don't have to say when, but if they
Right.
say there's those committees and then let's say you buildings and grounds, like you don't have, right, because the town is taking care of it. So if you put that in there in a year, did you meet? You say.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So if you do it by motion, then you have that, hey, we need this right now.
Right.
And you can make it a standing motion, you know, it's gonna be for the next year.
How about the question about having board members of the Friends on your trustee board, and are they on your committees?
I can speak to
Yes.
that.
Sounds like you need the microphone.
So Yeah, our library, we have a lot of our board members are friends, even our council liaison is a friend. And we even have library employees who are friends. So our friends group, it kind of ebbed and flowed over the years, and I think there was a interest in resurging and so it kind of came together with this new kind of hodgepodge thing, but it does come with its own set of problems. Like one of our staff members who's a friend and lives in town wanted to be the treasurer for the Friends. And that became kind of a conflict. We had someone say, well, that's not really the best idea. And we've had issues with the mayor's representative was very active. And I know one of the questions coming up is about the mayor's rep being on committees. But, you know, so she was on committees, on personnel finance committee, she was on the Friends. So she was on a lot of things, but she's also, her first obligation is the council. So it did create some issues. So, yes. So,
Thank you. To that end, does anybody else have anything about that Friends question or the next one, which is about the mayor's representatives? Are they on your committees? Yes, Mary.
With the Friends, no, it's a conflict of interest. Yeah, so with the Friends, that's a conflict of interest. Yeah, well, let me get them down. So in what way? Whose priority is it? Is it the Friends' priority? Is it the library board's priority? And that's become that.
Friends, the only role that our friends have is to fundraise for the library. So one of our board members is a friend, and she actually replaced a board member who was a friend. And,
But what we do is we would have a representative from the board being liaison
Right.
with a friend. Right. and that's
right, but our board member who is a friend is our liaison. I mean,
Right.
if her first priority, if the priority of the Friends is only to fundraise for the library, I think it's easy for her to compartmentalize, okay, I'm acting as a board member at this time, but I can also give information from the Friends meeting at this time.
But do your friends decide where to place the, or
They're not supposed to, according to their bylaws,
Right,
they're
no.
supposed to just hand over the cash.
Yeah. And actually, I would share that in my experience, it has been very positive. I mean, their level of enthusiasm is, you know, it's been a very nice thing, but I could see.
Tom, I just was gonna say, I also have been like a liaison with Friends. And I think that obviously I can't take any positions in the Friends, and I think that's where we sort of limit it. I'm there, I can sort of bring and give information and stuff like that and bring it back to the board as well. But I'm not able to become any, officer in the Friends.
Okay.
So that's where we clear cut that.
Ideally, don't you want to have all of your board members be a contributing member of the
Absolutely.
Friends monetarily?
Yes, yes, yes.
Could I just throw in add a hot question here? If by a show of hands, how many of the libraries the folks that are here, also have a Friends committee within their library system? Most of you, okay. Our particular library does not.
You could have a whole session on Friends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is Lynn still there? Lynn? are you- Yes,
I have only, 2 months. The 2 meetings I've been to, there are no mention meetings at all. Is that allowed, or committees mandatory, or that's just what we choose to do?
I'll check your bylaws.
Yeah, your bylaws will define it. If they say there has to be a committee, there's no rule that the libraries have to. Like I said, theirs are more formalized. Ours are more on the ad hoc basis of when they are needed. So that wouldn't be in the bylaws. So it could be at the time of the year. Usually you'll see them prepping right for budget time, negotiation time, right? Anything if you're doing negotiations, though. So it'll come ebb and flow. Sometimes there might not be anything for a while.
standing committee should be in your bylaws.
And standing committees, right?
sorry, I lost my place here. If you do decide to form a committee, what is the process for that? Is there a formal process? Is it ad hoc kind of question at a meeting? Is there, I mean, it seems very, the whole process seems very formal to me at this point. So if you decide you need to form a committee because you want to do what was the wonderful job that was done here, how does that come about?
That's gotta be presented at a meeting. That's gotta be discussed in a regular meeting, who's gonna sit on it, what their objective is gonna be. And you know, how long that they're seeing it and then voted on. Yeah, the board has to vote for it.
So be under new business. It's a new, you know. Something.
I think we kind of got an answer to this one, but it maybe not in total. How many people do you have on a committee to make it work most efficiently? I think part of that seems to be decided by the size of your board, that it can't be a quorum. Probably, I guess most boards are 7 or 9, so 3 or 4 is pretty much where you can go, right?
Right.
I think we got the board president also sit on all committees.
Ad hoc, and so as needed.
Yeah.
Pop in and out.
So when you say ad hoc, it can be a 3-person committee, but the board president can still be on it.
Over the quorum, but in my case, where I have a
You can.
9-person board, 3-person committee, and I could do the 4.
Okay.
So it's a 3-person committee, right?
I'm 9.
Right, so let's say, okay, so it's a 4-person committee. If the
Right.
I
president
only
is
have
sitting
4 people.
on,
So I only have 3 people.
you only have 3.
So I
But if the
can
president
pop in.
sits on it, he's just there as not voting with like the committee sitting there and deciding something, working on it, and the president's just sitting in.
Oh, no, the
Does that
president
count
can
toward the
contribute.
That can,
Oh,
And it doesn't
you're
count
in
toward
there
the quorum.
contributing. It's not like you're just.
So then
Well,
you
'cause you're
have a
not
committee, but
Right, because you're not going over, no, you're ad hoc, so you're there, you can come in and out of any.
you're not a committee member.
Well, I mean, if, for example, on the, what did I say that, the policies we're reviewing, I'm in there, I'm contributing, so like, if I wanna go in on, so if the president pops in and out as needed, and they're participating.
But for us, if our committee is 3 people, and then I as the president pop in, that's 4, and that's a quorum.
Well, because
Yeah,
you, that's the way you're set up, but
Yeah.
you're set up so that the president can pop in, and it's
Okay,
not a
just fair
quorum.
enough. I know I haven't been on every committee.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
that's why the president, that's, you know, that comes time,
Yeah.
the limiting factor.
Yes.
Is that it would be hard then, because we should have to sit on every single. one.
Yeah, but you should
Then
be able
we don't
to,
need we don't need to be able to have 2 committee members. It's the right
Right.
case if we had to have the president on every committee.
right, which is why that size is challenging.
Okay, another ad hoc question. Does anybody know how you determine whether you have a board of 7 or a board of 9? Is that up to each library to decide that for themselves?
No, it's, I thought we just went over this because we were looking for a new superintendent's representative. And it was in the
It's up to the
state
board.
library statutes
Right.
that we had to have 7.
Well, I
At
asked,
least, yeah.
I know on the Board of Ed side, I asked, because we have a very, we're the largest district in Bergen County with a small 5-person board. And I asked how to change, I said, can we change to and yes, you can vote, your board, you can vote to move back and forth in size. So someone along the line voted to shrink it to 5.
Now I need to find that statute
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, is it, you know, if the statute says it's
Trying to figure out the representative, and I know, and in the statute, it said, oh, here it is. Under New Jersey law, municipal library board of trustees consists of 7 to 9 members.
Yes, right, so it's
Okay.
either, and your board votes
One of
on it.
which the mayor or other chief executive officer, who would be your mayor's rep, and one is the superintendent. So for us, the superintendent rep and the mayor's rep are included, and for you, they must be
They're included,
in addition, well,
No.
they're included in your
in
9.
9, yeah,
For us, it's included in the 7.
right, right.
Yeah, that's ours too. We have 5 members and the 2 representatives. Yes, ma'am.
You're counting a liaison, the alternate as one of your regular members as part, that's not to be.
They're not voting.
I'm pretty sure they are not voters.
They
It's
are,
only
voters. I called the library trustee liaison, and she told me they are voters. She did also say,
some of the state laws, because as far as I know,
she's
they,
been voting on
alternates
everything.
have a right to vote only when the mayor or the superintendent are not in attendance.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
They're the representative.
Then they're not part of the quorum. Your
No.
quorum is 7. I mean, your quorum is from the 7, not the 9. You're including alternates that don't vote.
No, you aren't. You have 7
That would be
regulars,
We have
plus a
7
mayor.
regulars.
and- Yeah.
Plus the school liaison and the mayor liaison.
Yeah.
But they're voting members. not
But the mayor
representatives.
and the superintendent aren't there
They
voting.
vote. They're not voting.
They're not voting.
Yeah, I know, but you have to work from either 7 or 9.
Yes,
You-
I am.
That's like she's working.
I'm working from 9. I'm not sure what doesn't make
What I'm
sense.
saying is, you have to work from the people that are absolutely members.
They are.
And your,
Ours are
your
absolutely members.
your mayor is a member and your
But
superintendent.
they're the mayor's representative.
Right,
They are
they don't
the
have to
place.
Said that they vote only when.
The mayor is
either
not.
the
Our
superintendent
mayor's
or
never
mayor
come to a
not here.
meeting.
So
Yeah.
you have to work from the number 7, not the number 9. You're adding to.
I don't agree with
You
that.
have to check your laws. I have to.
Okay, well, I will check. I will check. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know we have 7 people, our quorum has to be
Based on,
4, rather, 4.
with the larger board, though, that number is going to be, the quorum is going to be 6.
Right, if it's 9 people, the
No,
quorum.
no. You're, under New Jersey state law, boards can be either 7 or 9.
Yeah.
Right, well, ours is 7,
And mine's 9.
so my quorum is 4.
You have a question?
Sure.
They were all-
So the young lady here, excuse me,
I have to say,
I'm gonna ask her a question. I just have a question to ask you. Right here, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Ask your question.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh,
Does your mayor and superintendent attend?
yes.
Oh, okay, that's.
So they always attend and our alternates attend as well.
But-
But they are not part of this, of the original.
The mayor and superintendent are there, not attend, so.
Mine do not attend.
attend.
They're the voting members.
And that person is the replacement. But she's only got 9.
My committee met for 3.
I mean, so that they are.
The basic mission of Ken Hardman.
Don't use, we consider ourselves the 7 members. With 2 alternates. They don't vote. So one is 4. If our- But it's still 7, but you can't do it. It's like that.
Okay, folks, if we could move on. Lost my place. This is, maybe I should hold this question to the end, I will do that. I think Julie mentioned this with her folks about how they take minutes and report. How do the rest, the way you do that, they don't take minutes, right? They don't take minutes, right? Is that pretty much the case with all of the rest of you? It's kind of just not minute taking?
No.
In the committee, you say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
No. A conclusion is brought to by the committee chair to the board itself.
Okay, but not.
Whether they
nothing
jot
like
down a note, I don't know. You know,
Okay, but there's no formal minutes.
I never know.
no, not formal.
Yeah, because
Well, I mean, I think the record is hiring for this year.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the committee, like if it's hiring, then we bring in, okay. These 3 candidates, we review our good candidates and we bring it to the board, so we are giving them notes on that,
Yeah, but,
so I think,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. I think.
No, it's not, because that, we're giving them notes on the information we're bringing to them.
No,
Right.
exactly.
Mhm.
This is a question that I think universal kind of thing is, how do you encourage board members to join a committee if there's some reluctance?
you sign it.
I'm sorry, what?
She said you signed it.
Democracy don't go so.
Out there. If you don't show up to the board. Usually though, you'll find that people have an interest. in
Yeah.
it.
Usually we ask who's interested and we get people to sign up for, you know, like some people will do the strategic, let's say, some people will do a different committee, so people usually sign up. And
You're offered food sometimes.
Good,
We
You-
offer an option first and then we sell them.
Even better.
kind of like those mutual resignations. We think you ought to leave and you think you ought to leave.
Oh, what time is it?
If you have committees, and as you do, is there a requirement that every board member serve on at least one committee?
We have two.
So it's,
I would think if you have standing committees like this,
Yes,
if you have
yes,
standing
yeah,
committees, that would be different.
Yeah.
When it's the ad hoc basis, because of different time lengths and everything,
Right.
and they're different interests, if someone's
Right.
really interested,
Okay.
so,
so, yeah.
but standing committees, yeah, then you have.
I think we asked that one. Something, someone asked a question about, would, if your chair, how are your committee chair people chosen? Is this again assigned by the president guy, or do they, is there any other kind of way to do it?
Let the committee decide themselves.
You do, okay.
No, we were assigned
Yeah.
25 years ago when I came on, I was assigned to budget and I went, my degree's in biology. I'm not sure what I'm doing here, but I learned. So.
But is your chair also appointed, or do you as a group say of the three of us, who's gonna drive the bus here?
No, usually we, so, you know, somebody shows a great interest and you go, great, you'll be the chair. Well, again, we have ad hoc, so it's not like we have to fill 5 different committees.
Again, this is an ad hoc question. Does your treasurer always serve as the chairman of the chair of the finance committee? I have a no.
I did.
You volunteered that stuff.
Just, have there been any more, I'm sorry, have there been some of the more pressing, what have been some of the more pressing challenges or issues that you've had for buildings and grounds committees in your experience? Have there been any? Yes, ma'am. You want the mic?
The library we're in right now was constructed in 1913. It consists of basically 5,600 square feet. The population of the town right now is 14,000. According to state library, whatever, we're supposed to have 1 square foot for each resident. So I think we're a little underserved. And because it's a historic library, we run into problems just with maintenance for it. Because you're restricted by this, that, and the other thing, and you have to get the right architect, you have to get this and that, and the other thing. So whenever anything goes, it's kind of like, okay, and then exponentially the cost goes up. And because we are looking for space and we applied for the state funding, and we found out that the town gave us space, but we found out that it was in a flood zone, so the whole thing got turned down. So we're basically at a 9,000 square foot deficit. And we're having trouble getting consensus within the community that we really need to expand. So that's one of the greater issues we have. The other issue we have is parking. Because people want to bring their kids to babysit, story time, whatever. We don't have any parking. And it's just getting more congested all the time. So that is the toughest thing that we've come about with having a building that's old, having the space that we don't have, and then trying to get cooperation within the town to get some of these things done. That has been the biggest thing. So when you have an old building, it just costs you more.
Anybody else have anything on that?
I would just add that, we sometimes have issues, I mean, the municipality, it doesn't govern us, but they do own the building. And a lot of times we're not prioritized, you know, they're thinking budget, 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 and our stuff, we noticed can kind of get pushed off. So that grid that we created actually has held them to task more because we're much more cognizant of, wow, we really haven't gotten that. There's a window we've been waiting on for over 2 years now. Like, oh, it's on order. It's on order. And we're like, okay, where's the window coming from? Like,
Well, COVID.
this just, you know, been, came in, it was the wrong side, it was this and that, but it keeps us to task, but that has been an issue for us, but.
Does the personnel committee conduct a review of the library director? If so, how is that done?
We said, yes, that's a big thing. We set the goals, right, for the year, what we expect. We have the library director also set what their goals are for the year, see where they match, and then, yeah, we review it at the end of the year if they met. If they were that exceeded and how it ties into the strategic plan and going down that path and then going to.
But do you bring it to the board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you just have the personnel committee members review the board? Or do you also have
Everybody reviews, it's more.
a review the directors? too?
Right,
Yeah,
it's more the setting of the goals,
Mhm.
right, setting of what the goals are for the upcoming year for the next, we actually got, what, 3 years, right?
We had a strategic plan for 3 years.
Right.
But we
How it fits
did
in there.
just review our library director and everyone on the board participated.
Right.
And-
Right, yes, we didn't use a committee, every single person on the board participated.
That's what we do too.
And that's the way we do it too.
You might do it to set it up, I might have miscommunicated there, to set up what you're doing for the year and then throwing it all out there, yeah.
But then we bring it to our personnel committee. Once everybody on the board has filled out the evaluation, then it goes to the personnel committee. Who, you know, adds all the numbers, gets the comments and whatnot, and then discuss it with the director as to how it, you know, she wants it presented, just from the committee itself, or, you know, closed session, or, you know, whatever.
I heard you say numbers. Do you do a numeric score for each?
Yes,
for
I
each
I
task?
took, I took the
1 to 5.
Ridgewood Library and kind of redid it, and they went numbers 1 through 5 for each of the questions. I think there was about 10 questions, and then room for, if you want to fill in some information.
Yeah, the New Jersey State Library on the website has a director's review, and it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Numbers
Oh, yeah.
1 through 5, or maybe it was like, it was number 1 was excellent, and number 5 was needs improvement, or something like that. And then there was a place to add any comments.
But you have the numbers, which are very objective, and then you have comments, which is more subjective.
Right.
So we actually provide our director with her numeric scores for each, and we give her every single comment people put but anonymous, like, but she gets to see exactly what everyone's feedback was on each thing.
Right, we did the same. We
Yeah.
compiled it all into one,
Yeah.
that's one document.
I would have had to make a book, like War and Peace for one of our trustees. To give all the comments.
Anybody not do it that way? Regarding the budget committee and their charges, do they meet with the borough administrator or the council liaison during the budget review? And if so, is that a productive exercise? Let's tackle the first question. Does it happen to you? Because as we know, the township does not control the budget, the library does. Do you discuss anything with?
We have a really
borough?
awesome director who does this for us.
We discussed this, like towards 3/4 through the year, then I get a feel for what the board wants.
Yes, but
Then I
you
take
do
that
all the preparation for the mayor and council. Dara prepares it for us
Years ago, it
based on our feedback, but he does all the hard work.
used to be a big deal, budget presentations, but in the last several years, it's not such an ordeal. You don't have to show up on Saturday morning, defend your budget in public. It's not such a big deal the last 3 or 4 years. So
Yeah, we do it that way also, and we come before our town. We do bring brownies with us. But again, they've been very, very good to us, and they will always manipulate to, help us out or whatever, if we,
Do you meet with that person prior to going to the town?
yes, we can meet with, Nicole, the, town administrator.
Yeah.
She also is the CEO and stuff. Years ago, she was giving me lessons because I became the treasurer at one point and I had really no idea, what, and so, we've kind of grown together and, yeah, they're very, very good to us.
And does anybody do it differently?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
We don't meet with the mayor or, we create our own versus everything.
Well,
Where is the president from?
so we had an interesting conflict because our mayor's representative was on our budget committee.
Nice.
And it was fine until it wasn't fine. And we had a council member who actually wants to get rid of the library. So
Okay.
having her on that budget committee then suddenly became a problem. And I reached out to Pat from the president of the Library Trustee Association. And she actually said that they recommend that the mayor and the school liaison not be on any committee.
Yeah.
So we actually moved her off of the three primary, the personnel, budgeting, and buildings and grounds. We took them off of it. If she wants to be on the others, then
as the finance officer of our library, we too do not have any kind of formal presentation with the town. We do send them something so they can see what we're doing, but they have no, jurisdiction to say you can't do that or you want to do that. Because again, it's our money. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but our budget is usually higher than a third of the mill in the town is giving us.
right.
Totally, you're right. That's a totally different kettle of fish, I should say. We are not above the third of the mill. That makes a total, then you really do have to make a formal presentation and.
And bake cookies.
Yeah. Special brownies.
Yeah.
We don't bring any grounds. Do you ever bring them any grounds?
Most ceremonies usually bagels.
I brought them some Swedish butter cookies.
We usually bring our strategic plan to them, just so they're aware like of what we're doing,
Yeah.
but we're independent.
It's usually very, very good when it comes to budget plan.
Yeah.
Especially if you got hard numbers written in there. That you actually thought about it and planned it.
Yes,
I have a question that kind of feeds off of this. How are you handling the rise in minimum wage, the cuts to funding, and the massive bills for health insurance? We just had to replace a full-time employee with 2 part-timers because the personnel department was afraid that if we hired a full-time person and they ended up needing family benefits, that it would put us over the limit and we couldn't afford that. We could afford to replace a single person with single benefits, but if somebody got the job that had a family, we couldn't afford that.
Realistic.
Yeah.
No, it's especially in the smaller library, that'd be a very realistic concern.
I went on TV. We decided recently that to answer your minimum wage question, everyone in our library exceeds the minimum wage. We got there a little bit before, I think next year is when it becomes mandatory that it be $15, and now I think this year was 14. But we just chose to maybe do a little less in other areas to make sure that we got above that and didn't have an issue with it. As far as the benefits, I've never heard that. To be honest, I've never heard that being an issue. From our perspective, anyway, I don't know. I think we had some heads nodding.
Yeah, no,
That's a tough-
issues.
yeah, that's-
That.
That's a tight budget, but that's why also having your director, like, there does a very good job of looking out over the next, not that it can help you today, but looking out over the next 2 or 3 years, hey, we know this person's going to be retiring.
Yeah.
We know this person, so, okay, it hurts right now, but we can find ways of, okay, we're gonna get to that point of, this is what we're gonna have to hire at that point. You can't necessarily do it immediately, but understanding the rotation. Yeah, none is expected, that's tight, then it looks at other things that you have to reduce the cost. That's a tight budget.
Isn't it seeing difference between single insurance and family?
Health insurance went up so much.
You do the state health insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do it private. Really? Yeah, in West Colton, yeah. I don't know, and we're under the town, the auspices of the town, so, you know, I'm not on wood.
Well, I've gone through all the questions I have here. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Mary?
Okay. I don't know if I understand or didn't understand. So on the library committee that you do have the mayor and the school representative, they can or they can't or should or shouldn't be on committees.
From what Pat was saying, she recommended they not.
Okay.
So
Any-
we move towards. I think we could.
We have them on committee, so
Yeah,
far,
ours have been.
yeah,
Okay, so it's kind of,
Yeah, I was surprised when she said that, but that was
Okay.
But it's not a hard and fast rule, it's just a recommendation.
it was a recommendation.
we don't have any as officers, either of the
Right.
two
No,
as
definitely.
officers
Yeah,
yeah,
on our
I think
board.
I heard they couldn't.
yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't think, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Remember, that's kind of also changing like it from year to year. Because the mayor could say, okay, this year I'm gonna have Kathy, next year I'm gonna have Tom. So that's why that can change from year to year, who the representative is.
Your mayors don't come to every meeting?
No,
Never.
never, never.
We do.
That's great. That's really good.
So so,
If your mayor's a big library supporter, it
Right,
could be a good thing. but if they're
absolutely.
Not necessarily supportive, it might not be a good thing.
Our meetings just happen the same night as mayor and council. And sometimes they do.
Maybe you have a representative.
We do have a council liaison, and then they don't always coincide, but they often do. But we're lucky that we have a very supportive mayor, so not what.
Right.
Yeah, so we have a council liaison who comes, we have a mayor's representative. Our mayor does drop in on meetings. It tends to be his choice that he does not vote if the mayor's alternate is there. Because his feeling is they come to every meeting.
Yeah.
And they're much more involved in the kind of the business of the library than he is, but he likes to be there to show his support for the library and the board. The council liaison, I think, is a different role, to be honest. The council liaison is actually a member of the public when they come to a board meeting. They don't vote, they certainly can speak as a member of the public, but they're a member of the public. You know, we also have had a council liaison. I mean, I've been on board for 12 years. We have a council liaison come to every meeting that I've been there. Again, because they want us to know that the council really does support the library and what we're doing. So, you know, we see it as a positive thing, but we also have kind of an understanding of how kind of best works for us as a board, as well as to keep the council very much informed. So that's just our experience in Westwood.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, and I'm not, and please tell me if this is not for this one, because it was a building and ground, it just brought to my mind. From what I understand, there's no official law or rule anywhere that basically is, so the library takes care of budget-wise the interior of the building, and the town takes care of the exterior of the building. But is that people's general experiences with their town? Seems I'm getting a nod here and then there, so.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so it really does depend on your town.
Yeah.
And it also depends about your building. Our building is a part of the Borough Hall facility.
Right, we're in
The town takes
Yeah.
staff, but if you're standalone, as we are here.
Right.
I'm sure the rules are different.
Well, no, I mean, our rule is still that the town takes care of the outside, like we need a new roof soon, they're taking care of that, but we take care of all the inside stuff. But there's nothing written anywhere, and it's always like, they're like, oh, it's just kind of traditional library thing, but it makes you kind of nervous that it's not written anywhere.
That, you know.
Looking into more.
Mhm.
That may be worth looking into more.
I know, I
Like
was
if
just,
they own the building, what are their requirements?
what are their actual
for- yeah.
responsibilities? Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. We're actually looking into it soon. I was just curious what other people's expectations were. Thank you.
Can I ask who has their own attorney? Do a lot of you have your own attorney? Because that was something, we use the towns, but, that was a big recommendation from the president.
Yeah, but how do you pay for the attorney? Because we just discussed it at our last meeting, is that if we hire our own attorney, then we have to pay for our own attorney.
Well, I know.
And it's a lot cheaper to use the borough's.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but where's the best interest of the borough's attorney? I mean, I guess it depends on what the
Right.
issue is.
Right.
If it's, but if you're in an argument with the borough, you want your own attorney.
And wouldn't he charge the same as an outside attorney?
We don't, our borough attorney doesn't charge us.
But you bring up a point, if it turns into something that becomes contentious with the town, that would be at the point.
Right.
Again, it's not our turn.
Yeah, we just put a maximum every year for what we're gonna pay.
Right.
It's been invaluable.
It's not his area, but.
I don't think we're gonna have the line in our budget for that.
Right,
I know all of the people at the trustee, in New Jersey, the Library Trustees Association and the State Library Association trustees. They all recommend that every library put in their budget for a library attorney. Not just either, you know, there are other attorneys who specialize in things like this. And they're the kind of people that you need. Especially now, I mean, we're starting, especially now that the, you know, collections are starting to get questioned and other policies are getting questioned, and it's, you really need somebody who knows library law, because I certainly don't know it, and I see that there's an awful lot to it that you know, maybe a borough attorney's not going to know, and as was mentioned over here by Sean and by Julie, that if you get into a contentious situation, clearly the borough attorney is going to represent the borough.
Now, can you have a budget 9 and not use it? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we actually just voted mid-year to add in a dollar amount for a borough attorney.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, a lot of things the trustee association will opine on, they'll give you an opinion on, but everything's with the caveat that you have to get your own attorney to. So something as simple, I don't know how many of you have come across this, but meeting rooms, you can't charge for meeting rooms. How many of you are charging for meeting rooms? We were. And I know lots of Wyckoff Library charges for meeting rooms. So like if you look around, you're not supposed to be charging.
We don't charge West Cole residents,
Well.
but if you come from an outside and you're
but you're
making
not
money,
allowed.
but if you come in and you're making money at it, you know, doing something.
It doesn't matter. We just came across this because we had someone who wanted from outside wanted to come in, and she said, no, you cannot charge that. You can make a board policy that you don't allow people to come for profit, that you only rent your rooms to nonprofit. So there's ways around your policy, but as a revenue source, you cannot have it as a revenue source at all.
So you're talking
So,
about meeting rooms only in the library.
Right.
not Like in the municipal.
right,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, like, these are things that, well, I'm so grateful that we all got together like this, because you know, it's not really feasible to go to an attorney every time you know, but some of these things really, we should know as a broader group, whether or not we should be doing something or not.
Julie, is that a state law?
It's a state, so they actually pulled the, Pat sent me the thing. And it is kind of worded in a very lawyer nebulously, you know, way, but she was like, no, definitely you cannot, like, but the, thing we came up with, so we have a yoga person that comes in and provides, a program, and she charges $5 or $10 a head. Can she do that? Her inclination was no. But my director said, well, we're a small library. We have limited program budgets, so this is something that's supplementing our program. That's really important to us.
No, you're supposed to pay the yoga teacher, and then, right, you can't charge the patrons.
Well, so, but how many libraries are doing this? I think a lot are charging, because when you read it, it's $10 for this. So, well, right, but can everyone in the room say that they're not charging for a room or
Donation.
or a thing like that?
Our yoga is done via Zoom, but we pay those.
Right, so I guess it depends, right? But I guess.
And she does it on Zoom, and then they do.
If I may, I'm going to do a little advertising and commercial for trustee development committee. A number of years ago, we had a program about library law and your own, excuse me, your own attorney. I would like each of you to put on your evaluation form that you would like to see us do a program on library law and having your own attorney and how to do it, how to budget for it. And because one of the reasons why, well, before I get too much, are there any more, do we have any more questions? Okay, what I'd like to do is the programs that we put on mostly because you folks ask us to. We have a very good committee. A number of folks are here from that committee. If you, with the TDC committee folks, please just raise your hand so everybody can see who you are. Thank you. I didn't do it for that reason, but thank you. But your evaluations are extremely important to us. And the programs that we want to put on are things that we want to meet relevant for you folks. We've expanded our programming to the point where we're trying to do at least 4 good-sized programs every year. We try to do 4 or 5 roundtables every year where these folks come and gather, and we usually have a focused topic, and but we ask you to share your thoughts, much like this, but in a little bit more informal setting. And we build those things based on what we've heard is relevant and what you tell us is relevant to your library. So again, I thank you all for coming to this and being so interactive. That's one of the nice things about doing it live. I think they're much more interactive than we do it on Zoom. Although I would say hello to our 2 folks out there who are watching on Zoom. Couldn't make it. And this is recorded, so you'll be able to listen to this. But please complete the evaluations. You also will be receiving certificates for your participation in this program. Since I'm doing commercials, we have another meeting about strategic planning. It's going to be on May 11th, and we are taking the show on the road again. We're going to be in Hasbrook Heights, hosted by our friend Mimi Hoy back there, at the director of Hasbrook Heights. Registration is open for that if you haven't already registered for it. So please do that. I have this little blue form here. If you'd like to receive our trustee newsletter, we can actually say that now. We've talked about it for like 5 years before we finally got it out there. It comes out quarterly and lets you know some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we're doing, and please do that. And you can do that by just on this form, which is out at the desk. You just put your name and your library and your email address, and you will be receiving that. I know a lot of you have already done it, but for some new folks, that would be helpful. I want to thank my committee. I want to thank our committee for the hard work that they've done in putting this together. We really are a very good group. If anybody's interested in joining that committee, please let me know. We're always looking for new folks. Thank you, and we want to also thank Dara and his staff for making us feel nice and comfortable in this new room. Yes, Mary.
You said it was recorded tonight.
Colleen, save me.
We'll be sending a link in
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, Darlene will send a link and we'll send your certificates and that sort of thing. Do they have the evaluation forms? Does that go with that as well?
That'll be electronic.
Okay, thank you.
There'll be a link to the Google form.
Yeah, and I would be terribly remiss if I didn't mention Darlene Swisstock, our property in you really did wise about this whole place. So that's it. Thank you again, panel. We really appreciate you coming. we have future panels in the past, we may be knocking on your door, so, we love to get new faces involved and get new people involved, so. I guess that's it. Thank you very much. Have a safe trip home and thank you.
Very nice.